High Output Management by Andrew S. Grove. Here's a wild thought. What if the secret to running a billion-dollar empire, to leading teams that reshape our world, could be discovered in something as ordinary as making breakfast? Picture yourself in a busy kitchen. An order comes in, one perfectly soft-boiled egg, cooked for exactly 3 minutes, a slice of buttered toast, and a steaming cup of coffee. The catch? Everything needs to land on the table at the exact same moment, perfectly hot and fresh. Sounds straightforward enough, right? But hold on. The coffee's already brewed and waiting. Toast takes about a minute. That egg needs 3 full minutes. Start everything together, and your toast goes cold while your coffee turns lukewarm waiting for that egg. Start the egg first, and you're playing a high-stakes game of kitchen choreography. Oh, and what happens when the toaster's tied up, or you're suddenly out of eggs? Just like that, your simple breakfast transforms into an intricate ballet of timing, resources, and split-second decisions. This kitchen chaos isn't really about breakfast at all. It's actually a factory in miniature. And the brilliant mind who recognized this truth was a legend named Andrew S. Grove. His name might not ring a bell, but trust me, you're living in the world he helped create. Andy Grove escaped communist Hungary with practically nothing in his pockets. He mastered English, earned his PhD, and co-founded a little startup you've probably heard of, Intel. He didn't just build a company, he helped construct the entire digital revolution. Time magazine crowned him Man of the Year in 1997, calling him the person who'd most profoundly shaped our world. And here's where it gets interesting. At the absolute peak of his influence, running one of the planet's most crucial companies, he did something remarkable. He paused everything and wrote down the secrets behind his success, not in some dry academic tome, but in a straightforward, powerful guide called High Output Management. For decades, this book was Silicon Valley's best-kept secret, handed down from mentor to protege like a treasure map. It wasn't flashy or filled with trendy catchphrases, but it contained a radical idea. Management, the art of leading people and making things happen, isn't some mystical gift you're born with. It's a craft, a learnable skill that can be refined and mastered. It's essentially production, just like cooking that 3-minute egg. So here's what I'm offering you. Stay with me through this journey, and I promise you'll start seeing everything differently. Your school assignments, your future career, even your daily life will stop looking like random chaos and start resembling a factory you can design, manage, and fine-tune for extraordinary results. You'll discover the single most important equation for any leader. And spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with money. You'll learn how to transform any group into a powerhouse team. This isn't about preparing for some distant future management role. This is about becoming effective right now, today. So pour yourself some coffee, and let's step into the breakfast factory. Our story starts in that humble breakfast kitchen. Grove challenges us to see it not as cooking, but as a production system. To nail it, you need to identify what he calls the limiting step, that single longest, trickiest, or most critical part of your entire process. In our breakfast scenario, it's clearly that 3-minute egg. Everything else, toast, coffee, butter, revolves around that one crucial element. Think about writing a major research paper. What's your limiting step? Probably not the typing or printing. It's the research itself, that grueling work of gathering and analyzing information. Everything else builds backward from that critical phase. You don't write your introduction before figuring out your actual argument. Your whole workflow orbits around that one essential step. This simple concept, identifying your limiting step, is your first key to unlocking exceptional output. Whether you're building software, recruiting talent, or even running a justice system, there's always a limiting step. Grove points out something fascinating. Society invests over $1 million securing a criminal conviction, yet we often can't jail that person because we lack an $80,000 cell. We've let the wrong step limit our entire system. Once you view your work as a production line, you'll notice every process contains 3 basic operations: process, assembly, and test. Boiling that egg is a process. It transforms the raw material. Arranging the egg, toast, and coffee on a tray is assembly. Checking if the toast is burnt? That's your test. This framework applies universally. In software development, writing code is your process. Integrating it into a complete program is assembly, and debugging is testing. The golden rule? Always catch problems at the lowest value stage possible. Finding a rotten egg before cooking it beats having a customer discover it on their plate. Spotting a code flaw in one line beats finding it after the entire program's assembled. This is Grove's vision, a world of systems, inputs, and outputs. He invites us to see any organization, team, or project as a black box. Raw materials and effort enter one side. Finished products emerge from the other. But watching only the final output means you're constantly reacting, discovering problems after they've already happened. True management mastery lies in learning to cut windows into that black box. How? Through indicators, measurements. These become your eyes and ears inside the factory. Running the breakfast kitchen means tracking more than just meals served. You need 5 crucial data points every morning. 1. What's today's sales forecast? How many breakfasts are we expecting? 2. What's our raw material inventory? Enough eggs on hand? 3. How's our equipment holding up? Is the toaster functioning? 4. What's our staffing situation? Anyone calling in sick? 5. And critically, what's our quality indicator? What feedback are customers giving us? These aren't just numbers. They're signposts directing your attention. But Grove warns us about a dangerous trap. Indicators wield enormous power, and whatever you measure, you'll instinctively try to improve. Measure only your team's sales calls, and they'll make tons of calls while selling nothing. Activity doesn't equal output. That's why he introduces paired indicators. Always measure both the effect and its counter-effect. Track sales calls made, but pair it with sales actually closed. Monitor inventory levels alongside shortage incidents. This pairing keeps you balanced, preventing you from overcorrecting in any single direction. This foundation, seeing the world as a factory with production lines, limiting steps, and guiding indicators, is just the beginning. Grove's real genius emerges when he applies this rigorous factory logic to the messiest, most unpredictable, most vital part of any organization: people. Which brings us to the single most important sentence in this entire book, the beating heart of high-output management. A manager's output is the output of the organizational units under his or her supervision or influence. Let that marinate for a moment. It doesn't say a manager's output is their reports, meetings attended, or decisions made. Those are merely activities. A manager can execute their own work flawlessly, but if their team produces nothing, their output is zero. Consider a football coach. They never run the ball or throw a single pass, but their output is measured entirely by their team's performance on the field. They win or lose based purely on what their team achieves. Business, government, education, it's all a team sport, and winning requires a team effort. So if your output equals your team's output, your entire role transforms. The question shifts from, how can I be more productive, to, how can I make my team more productive? The answer lies in what Grove calls managerial leverage. Leverage measures the output generated by any given management activity. Some tasks carry low leverage. Spending an hour fixing a typo in someone's report improves exactly one document. That's minimal leverage. But what if you invest that same hour teaching them how to catch and fix their own errors? You've just improved every report they'll ever write. That's extraordinary leverage. High leverage activities fall into 3 categories. 1. When many people are affected by one manager's action. Imagine a manager who clearly defines project goals at the outset. By investing a few hours up front, she saves her entire team hundreds of hours of confusion down the line. That's leverage in action. 2. When a brief, well-focused managerial action affects someone's performance over a long period. This captures the essence of effective performance reviews. 1 hour of thoughtful, honest feedback can elevate a person's performance for months, even years. Pure leverage. 3. When an individual supplies unique, crucial knowledge that affects a large group's work, this is the expert who unsticks an entire team with their specialized know-how. Management mastery, Grove argues, is the art of identifying and concentrating on these high-leverage activities. Your job becomes constantly seeking that sweet spot where your effort generates maximum impact on your team's output. And one of the highest leverage moves of all? Delegation. But here's Grove's critical warning. Delegation without follow-through is just abandonment. You can't simply hand off a task and wash your hands of it. You remain responsible. The way you maintain that responsibility is through monitoring, not meddling or micromanaging, but checking in to ensure things stay on track. This monitoring works like quality assurance in our factory. You do it at the lowest value stage possible. Review rough drafts rather than waiting for the polished final version to discover fundamental problems. Now, if so much managerial work involves gathering information, sharing it with your team, making decisions, and providing feedback, where does all this actually happen? This leads us to one of corporate life's most despised and misunderstood elements: meetings. Most management experts tell you to avoid meetings like the plague. Grove says that's like telling a carpenter to avoid their hammer. Meetings aren't time wasters. They're the medium through which management work gets done. You shouldn't fight their existence. You should master them. He breaks them into 2 types. Process-oriented meetings happen on regular schedules, designed to exchange information and keep organizational gears turning smoothly. Mission-oriented meetings are convened to solve specific problems or make particular decisions. The most important process-oriented meeting, one Grove essentially invented as formal practice, is the one-on-one. This sacred time between supervisor and subordinate isn't a status update. It belongs to the subordinate. They set the agenda. The purpose is mutual teaching and information exchange. The supervisor's role is to listen and coach. Grove's principle here is beautifully simple, yet profound. Ask one more question. When you think they've said everything about a topic, ask another question. Keep gently probing until you both feel you've reached the heart of the matter. One-on-ones uncover those subtle, nagging problems that never make it into formal reports. They build trust. They're the absolute foundation for effective delegation. You can't delegate successfully without a shared information base and common problem-solving understanding. That shared foundation gets forged in these one-on-ones. The leverage is immense. 90 minutes of your time can improve their work for 2 weeks, over 80 hours. The second process meeting type is the staff meeting, where the supervisor and all their direct reports gather as a group. Its purpose is fostering peer interaction. This is where teams learn collective decision-making, where different perspectives collide, where better understanding emerges from healthy debate. The supervisor's role isn't lecturing but moderating, keeping discussions on track and ensuring the team tackles real issues. The final meeting type is mission-oriented, called specifically to make a decision. Success here, Grove insists, hinges on the chairman, whose real work happens before the meeting even starts. They must be crystal clear on the meeting's objective. What decision needs making? Who needs to attend? Then, during the meeting, they guide the group through an ideal decision-making process with 3 stages. 1. Free discussion. All viewpoints are welcomed and debated. The more controversial the issue, the more crucial it is that this discussion remains completely open. This is where you bring together people with position power, the managers, and people with knowledge power, the experts. Status symbols get stripped away, and everyone contributes as equals. 2. Clear decision. Once debate has run its course, someone must make a clear, unambiguous decision. The temptation is getting fuzzy here, avoiding hurt feelings. Grove says that's a mistake. A postponed argument isn't an avoided argument. 3. Full support. Finally, and this is crucial, everyone involved must commit to supporting the decision, even if they personally disagree. Organizations don't survive by universal agreement on everything. They thrive when members commit to unified action. This process often gets sabotaged by what Grove calls peer group syndrome. When equals gather without clear leadership, they talk in circles, afraid to stick their necks out until consensus magically appears. Someone needs to step up, either the person with most at stake or a senior figure, to break the deadlock and guide the group toward a clear decision. We've designed our factory, learned to use our management tools, but now we reach the engine room, the people themselves, the players on the team. Here, Grove offers another brilliantly simple diagnostic. When someone isn't doing their job, only two possible reasons exist. Either they can't do it, or they won't do it. They're either incapable or unmotivated. To figure out which, Grove proposes a simple mental test. If their life depended on doing the work, could they do it? If yes, they're unmotivated. If no, they're incapable. If my life depended on running a 6-minute mile, I probably could. I'm capable, just unmotivated. But if my life depended on performing a violin concerto, I'd fail. I'm simply not capable. This straightforward distinction gives managers two primary tools for improving individual performance. Training addresses capability, motivation addresses willingness. Grove believed motivation springs from within. Managers can't manufacture someone's motivation. But what they can and must do is create an environment where motivated people flourish. To understand this environment, he turns to psychologist Abraham Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs. At the bottom sit physiological needs, food, shelter, things money buys. Next comes safety and security, then social needs belonging to a group. These first three levels get us showing up for work, but what makes us perform once we're there are the two highest levels. Esteem, the need for recognition and respect, and at the very top, self-actualization. Self-actualization, for Grove, is that burning internal drive to achieve one's personal best. It's the engine of peak performance. It's the virtuoso violinist practicing endlessly, not for applause, but to edge a little closer to perfection. It's the marathon runner pushing through exhaustion, not for money, but to beat the clock, to go a bit further, a bit faster than before. This is the sports analogy. Why do athletes push themselves to such incredible heights? They're competing against opponents, against the clock, against their own previous records. They have clear goals, and, crucially, they receive immediate, task-relevant feedback on their performance. The manager's job is being a coach, and a coach's job is transforming the workplace into a playing field. This means creating a racetrack for your team. You establish clear rules, and, most importantly, you create ways for them to measure themselves. When people can clearly see their own performance and watch it improve, they start competing with their personal best. That's when the limitless energy of self-actualization ignites. But how does a coach extract the best from each individual player? A one-size-fits-all coaching style fails spectacularly. Rookies need different approaches than seasoned veterans. This brings us to the master key of individual management, task-relevant maturity, or TRM. This isn't about age or general intelligence. It's their experience, confidence, and readiness to handle responsibility for a specific task. Someone can have high TRM in one area and rock-bottom TRM in another. The optimal management style changes dramatically depending on someone's TRM. When TRM is low, they're new to the task. The most effective style is highly structured. Tell them what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Clear, precise, directive. Think about teaching a child to ride a bike for the first time. You hold the seat, you give constant instructions. When TRM is medium, they're getting the hang of it. The style shifts toward communication, coaching, and support. You focus less on the how and more on two-way conversation, encouragement, and mutual reasoning. You're no longer gripping the bike, but you're running alongside, ready to help. When TRM is high, they're experts. Your involvement should be minimal. Agree on objectives, then step aside. Your role becomes monitoring to ensure things stay on track. The child now rides independently, and you just watch from a distance to ensure safety. Your goal as a manager is raising people's TRM as quickly as possible. Why? Because the higher their TRM, the less of your time they require, the more you can delegate, and the higher your leverage becomes. This is how you scale. The most powerful tool for raising TRM and providing motivation-fueling feedback is the performance review. Grove sees this as the single most important form of task-relevant feedback you can provide. It's one of your highest leverage activities, but most managers botch it completely. We're culturally wired to avoid confrontation. The review devolves into a vague, uncomfortable ritual. To do it right, Grove offers 3 simple rules, the 3 L's. 1. Level. Be completely, brutally honest. The entire system's credibility depends on your frankness. This applies equally to praise and criticism. 2. Listen. This isn't just letting them talk. It's using all your senses to ensure your message is actually landing. Are they understanding you, or just waiting for their turn to speak? Watch their body language. Ask questions. Don't stop until you're certain the thought in your brain has successfully transferred to theirs. 3. Leave yourself out. The review is about them, not you. Your insecurities, your guilt, your desire to be liked, all of it must be set aside. It's their day in court. Finally, Grove expands his lens one last time. We've progressed from breakfast to factory to manager to team players. But what happens when the team becomes a network of teams? What happens when the breakfast factory goes national? You're now running a vast network. Some functions, like equipment purchasing, should be centralized for economies of scale. Others, like hiring local staff or placing local ads, should be decentralized, left to franchise managers who know their communities. This creates natural tension. The desire for local responsiveness pushes toward decentralization, a mission-oriented structure. The desire for efficiency and leverage pushes toward centralization, a functional structure. The result, Grove says, is inevitable. He proposes Grove's law. All large organizations with a common business purpose end up in a hybrid organizational form. You see it everywhere. Armies have mission-oriented fighting units, but also functional groups for supply, intelligence, and payroll serving all units. Universities have mission-oriented departments, math, English, history, and functional administration for HR, security, and libraries. This hybrid world is messy and ambiguous. To make it work, you need systems where people report to multiple bosses. A factory controller, for example, reports to the factory manager for daily missions, but also to the corporate director of finance for professional standards and methods. This is dual reporting, the mechanism allowing hybrid organizations to function. It requires strong corporate culture, shared values, and high trust. It's neither clean nor simple, but it's the best way to organize a business. It's both the price and the reward of building something that scales. From a single egg to a global corporation, the principles remain constant. Define your output, find your limiting step, use leverage, coach your team, and never, ever forget that your success gets measured not by what you do, but by what your team achieves. That's the timeless wisdom of high-output management. When you step back and survey the world Andy Grove built, it's tempting to get lost in the technology, the microprocessors, Silicon Valley's incredible complexity. But high-output management's real legacy is its profound humanity. It's a book that takes the seemingly cold, impersonal world of business and reminds us that fundamentally, it's all about people. The most powerful lesson for me is the perspective shift it demands. Traditionally, management was seen as a status position. You were the boss, you made the calls. Your job was being important. Grove demolishes that notion completely. He redefines management as service. Your job isn't being important, it's making your team successful. Your output is their output. It's a deeply humbling, deeply empowering idea. It transforms leadership from a title into a responsibility. What makes this book timeless is that these principles aren't exclusive to Fortune 500 CEOs. They're for anyone working in a group on any project. It's a universal operating system for getting things done with other people. Task-relevant maturity is something you can apply right now in a school group project. Are your partners new to the topic? Be structured. Are they experts? Just agree on goals and trust them. It's a practical, compassionate leadership approach. So how can you start applying these ideas today, long before having a formal management title? Here are 3 simple actions. First, define your output. Next time you start a project, school, club, part-time job, ask that simple question. What's the actual output here? Not the activities or tasks, but the final, measurable result. Then ask, what's the limiting step? Just this simple framing will bring incredible clarity. Second, try a genuine one-on-one. This might sound unusual, but find a partner on something important. Set aside 30 minutes and tell them, this is your meeting. I just want to listen. What's on your mind? What are your biggest challenges? How can I help? Don't try solving their problems. Just listen and ask one more question. You'll be amazed at what you learn and how much that partnership strengthens. Third, find your personal racetrack. Whatever skill you're building, coding, writing, sports, find a way to measure your performance, track your progress, compete with yourself. Create that feedback loop Grove describes. It's the engine of self-actualization, unlocking your personal best. That was a summary of High Output Management by Andrew S. Grove. We've covered the highlights today, but honestly, summaries can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you read the book yourself. It's in those quiet moments when a particular story or simple phrase hits you unexpectedly. This summary helps you decide if this book deserves your time. If anything we've discussed today resonated, I genuinely hope you'll grab a copy, because reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely transform how you see your work, your teams, and your own potential. A link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It tells us we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.